Hey everybody, how we doing? I am Ben Griffith, and this is the Ben Griffith Breakdown. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about this strike that the U.S. conducted inside of Yemen on the Houthi rebels. And if anybody has watched any of my other videos, specifically the ones on the Israel-Hamas war, or the last one I did commenting on some ridiculous statements that Chris Hayes made, you'll see in both of those videos I commented on this escalating throughout the Middle East as we go on, and that the reason for that escalation would in fact be the inaction of the Biden administration. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today. But that this strike was an inevitable action that had to come sooner or later. It was conducted with some of the help of our coalition partners, UK, Australia, Netherlands, Bahrain, I believe, and they hit about 12 different sites inside of Yemen. So this has been long overdue. The Houthis have been terrorizing the Red Sea and firing missiles at Israel for months now. There have been 26 different attacks on ships inside of the Red Sea, including naval ships, since the middle of November. So this should have happened a long time ago, for no other reason that they were launching attacks on United States naval vessels. That should be an absolute red line and warrant a response immediately, right? But furthermore, this is threatening the global economy. It's disrupting one of the largest trade routes in the world through the Red Sea that, obviously goes through the Suez Canal. And for people who don't know about this, it basically allows you to go from one side of the world to the other without having to go all the way around Africa. So it's a huge trade route. So you have to ask yourself, why did this take so long to happen? Why did it take us so long to react at this level? Well, there's a few reasons. First one is Biden administration has some egg on its face here. In 2021, as soon as they took over in February of 21, they took the Houthi rebels off of the terror list. And here they are a few years later dropping bombs on them. So that doesn't look good, right? So that removal of them from the terror list was just another way for them to appease Iran, this ridiculous strategy that they have to appease Iran, whether, as though taking one of their proxies off a terror list and giving them $6 billion was somehow going to stop them from pursuing nuclear weapons, when everybody knows that's not going to happen. And they've proven it over and over and over again, but they still are attempting this strategy of appeasement, which baffles the mind. The other half of this is the Biden administration and their bare minimum hands-off approach to anything military since they started this administration. It started in Afghanistan, where we looked just absolutely ridiculous on the world stage and looked just weak and feckless. And that has carried on through. It's emboldened China. They're making moves, all the time on Taiwan. It continued to Ukraine. And Ukraine was a double-edged sword. Not only did that weakness cause Russia to feel like they could attack Ukraine, but then our inability to make decisions without having to worry about whether we're going to make waves or not stopped us from giving Ukraine what they needed to win that war. We'll give you guns and ammunition, but we're not going to give you any missiles. Okay, we'll give you some missile systems, but we're not going to give you tanks. Okay, we'll give you tanks, but we're not giving you F-16s. And now they're saying, okay, maybe we'll allow you to have F-16s. So if we had just given Ukraine what they needed at the very beginning of this war, in the first 6 months of that war, they would be in a much better place. I'm not saying they'd be winning or have won this war, but they would be in a much, much better place. But once again, this administration cares more about optics than the men and women in uniform or the countries that we're trying to assist. And, it's come to a point now where optics are more important than results, which is not how you run a campaign of any kind. You do the right thing and then worry about the optics later. And to that point, there have been over 130 attacks on U.S. bases throughout Iraq and Syria and other parts of the Middle East. We've done basically nothing. A few tit for tat responses. They lob some missiles at us. We lob a couple missiles back, blow up a site here or there. We did kill one leader of one of these groups in Iraq, but it hasn't changed anything. They're not deterrents. Nobody's been deterred by what we've done so far because we're doing the bare minimum. In fact, we just had a strike in Yemen yesterday, and the Houthis have already vowed revenge on the United States and said that they're going to have more attacks. The tit for tat approach needs to stop. Every single response we have to aggression needs to be exponentially larger than what was brought to us. If you fire one missile at a United States naval vessel, we're going to find out who was responsible for it. Every single place that you have any kind of infrastructure, where your leaders are, and we are going to blow all of them up. It needs to be a shock and awe approach for terrorists attacking U.S. personnel. So it should be clear as day that it's not worth attacking the United States. Whatever you're planning on doing, don't, because the response is going to be so overwhelming that it's not worth whatever you're planning. And this hands-off approach isn't deterring anything. It's promoting attacks. Weakness invites conflict. The Biden administration needs to learn that sooner than later. And they didn't learn their lesson in Afghanistan, and now they're taking that weak and feckless policy that they've had since they came into power, and they're just bringing it in to the Middle East, where it's really, really going to do damage. And our message to the Houthis has been warning after warning after warning, line in the sand after line in the sand after line in the sand. And when John Kirby and these other DOD officials stand up, they all say, we don't want to escalate tensions. We'll do what we need to do, but we don't want to escalate tensions. Simple fact of the matter is, tensions are already escalated. And they are going to escalate further. So this administration has to ask themselves, do we want to control that escalation, or do we just want to continue to react to that escalation? And the only way to control this escalation, especially with terrorist organizations, is with force. That's all terrorist organizations understand is force. And the force needs to be so overwhelming that there is no question who's carrying the biggest stick. Unfortunately, Biden's not going to go that route. He just won't. Things will escalate further, and we will react, but it'll be more tit for tat. We'll only do it after we're provoked a few more times. More people are put in danger. And we will continue to have a reactive approach instead of a proactive approach to this conflict, because that's just how, that's just the modus operandi of this administration. So, crazy enough, the only people so far who are upset about these strikes are Democrats. A handful of people from the progressive wing, the Jayapals and Cori Bush and Ro Khanna and Rashida Tlaib, have all come out and said that this is illegal. And they're, of course, referring to Article 1 of the Constitution. And for those of you who are not aware of that, Article 1 of the Constitution says that you can't go to war without first going to Congress. Well, this is brought up however many presidents, as you go through. It doesn't matter if it was Obama or Trump or whoever. Every time a Republican does some sort of a unilateral strike, Democrats go, you can't do that, it's illegal. Every time a Democrat does it, Republicans complain about it the same way. But this is the first time I've ever seen Democrats go after Democrats for it. So that's kind of interesting to see that play out. And of course, there's immediately protests in the streets in New York and in Washington. Apparently, these protesters believe that you should be able to fire missiles at United States naval vessels and disrupt international trade routes and attack innocent commercial vessels with no repercussions whatsoever. But yeah, it is what it is. So, guys, long and short, this is going to escalate further. And it's going to escalate further because this administration doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to treat terrorists like terrorists. And that's what the Houthi rebels are, whether they took them off the list or not. And at the end of the day, they don't want to make Iran mad at us. And it just goes towards this further non-confrontational appeasement standpoint that they have with Iran. But inaction is going to breed action. Weakness is going to breed aggression. That's just the way the world works. And the sooner that we move to a proactive stance and take the fight to the enemy, the sooner that we'll get the situation under control. And this administration has two options: a long-term conflict with minimal aggression, or a short-term conflict with maximum pressure. But Biden will not choose the latter. He absolutely will not, because they lack the courage and the determination to do so. And they're, again, too worried about the optics. So we're going to see how this plays out. I am 90% sure that this is going to escalate further, and there's going to be some more attacks and more retaliation. And that, but I believe that this is probably just going to continue to go tit for tat, and we are not going to take the fight to the enemy like we should. I'm really interested to see how it all plays out, how far this blaze spreads across the Middle East, and how long the Biden administration stands by watching, holding the fire extinguisher. And we'll just see how it plays out. But guys, thanks for tuning in. As usual, comments, questions in the comments section. And we'll go from there. And like I said, we're probably going to do another video on this pretty soon. And we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.